So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the UK economy contracting in October and kind of some of the takes around it, such as the idea that Labour have kind of spooked businesses.
James, your company is massive. You spend your life studying the jobs market. How dependent at the moment are we on legal migration?
Well, legal migration is very important for filling all sorts of jobs in the economy, particularly in health and social care. And we're dependent on it importantly. But I think the numbers have surprised people. So over the last 2 years, 1.6 million net immigration. It was much higher than most people were expecting. And that's two cities of Liverpool. So that's a lot of people. Where are they going? How are we looking after them? Where are they being housed? So how do we make that work, I think, is a live issue.
And in terms of the temperature of the economy at the moment, you know, you're in contact with exactly what's going on all around the country. What signs are you seeing? Because alongside immigration, the massive challenge for this government is to get the economy growing. They say it's number one on their list, but what are the clues that you see?
Well, we're like the crow's nest on a ship because we get the vacancies coming into our website early, so we see what's happening in the labour market, which is a leading indicator. And the economy's cooling, and we can see that very clearly. And it's been cooling for several months, since the summer. And most recently, our data for November showed job numbers, vacancies falling 13% month on month. 13%, and that's 26% down year on year. So that's a very significant decline. That worries me because when I've seen that in the past, it's been an indication that recession is around the corner.
So essentially, businesses are hiring less people, which is possible because you can doom loop an economy by kind of scaring investors and businesses into, and also the public, into spending less by talking about the economy and tough budgets and all of this kind of nonsense. And so what you can do is you can scare people into spending less, which has a negative impact, and you can talk yourself into a recession, a very shallow one, but even still.
But
and we might see a dip, and unemployment will rise.
And do you think that's possible then? That's what we're heading towards?
Yeah, I should call it out. I mean, the budget has spooked business, and we've seen that. And this big black hole of 22 billion we've heard so much about has become a million black holes in company balance sheets up and down the country. And all these businesses are looking at what are we going to do about this? And the answers to that question are not good. We're going to cut hiring, we're going to make people redundant, we're not going to invest, we're going to offshore jobs. So that is a big issue. And I would urge a rethink on this because I think taxing jobs right now is not a good idea. And there are better things to tax. You could tax fuel. You could
taxing fuel. That's going to hit workers directly. I would change capital gains, put it in line with income tax. That's where I'd have started.
Gambling. You could tax high value property. You could tax import
land,
but not jobs.
I don't know, 2 out of 4 of those are kind of mid, but I think doing a land tax would be a good idea. Capital gains with income tax, raising that top 45% of income tax rate, things like that is what Labour could have done. And when you look at some of the broader kind of stories around it, UK economy shrinks again in October. Official figures show people are trying to say it's not Labour's fault because they only just came in July. But this is no one's going to give them any kind of don't worry, it's the Tories' fault. There was a budget. There were lots of leaks coming out about some of the gnarlier stuff in the budget. You kept talking about how it's going to be a very tough budget. How did you expect people to react to it? It doesn't make any sense. And you got Susanna Reid talking about kind of her biggest kind of not political moment of the year. That's what this phrase does here.
Of winning, they announced they were going to ask pensioners to help pay off this £22 billion black hole and withdraw the winter fuel allowance from anyone who's not on pension credit. And the threshold then was at around £12,000. And I think a lot of people who voted Labour thought, hang on a moment, I'm not sure I voted for a Labour government to then take money away from the poorest in our society. Many people supported the fact that winter fuel allowance is paid to millionaires and that needs to be taken away. But the threshold was set very low. And of course, this came at exactly the moment that members of the Labour government, including the new Prime Minister, were being criticised for accepting freebies of thousands of pounds. So on the one hand, they're accepting freebies, and on the other, they are asking people on £12,000 incomes to go without up to £300 at a time when we've got a winter where fuel bills have gone up.
I mean, Andy, are you
Yeah, the optics alone on that were awful. The threshold they set was terrible, and the fact is, like, a lot of these older people are a bit more, I think, politically engaged, or at least they're more willing to call into like, radio stations and write in and things like that. The most you'll get from a younger person is like someone tweeting at them or something, and you see like endless stories of people writing into news shows about the winter fuel allowance cut, whether it was the people directly impacted or their family members. I mean, it's just stupid. Like all they had to do was set a decent threshold. That was it, and they couldn't even manage that.
were you surprised by the sort of early missteps of Starmer's team?
I think going into government is really difficult, and as Yvette Cooper said, I don't think any government's had a worse inheritance than this, honestly. I
don't know. Clement Attlee would say hi. Clement Attlee would fight you on that one.
On every level. I actually, on the record, agree with you. I think there was a case for reform because it does go to very wealthy pensioners, and whether that's justifiable, I would say possibly not. But the threshold, I said, like you, Susanna, probably should have been higher.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, honestly. I don't know. With this stuff, it's baffling because, like, they have fumbled this so badly, and they must have known it would have some sort of impact, with them speaking businesses, and then them kind of that threshold they set, and with the winter fuel payments, it was just, this is the kind of thing where you talk about this big, when you want to put the positive case out there for the UK to get investors in, because one thing investors love is optimism and positivity, right? You talk about this 22 billion black hole, you talk about cutbacks and all of this stuff, right? The UK is not a great place to invest in as is. There are many better options. There's the United States, there's France, there's Spain. Spain are doing really well, I think. There are many other kind of European countries, like if you want to look specifically in Europe to invest in, right? So you're trying to attract investors. You talk about this black hole, you talk about all of these cutbacks, you talk about all this other nonsense, right? You're going to turn people off investing in the UK. They've been schmoozing big business for so long now, and then you do the national insurance increase on businesses, and all of that goodwill you built up with businesses that you worked hard to do to get their donations so you could win that election, it's in the bin. Who's going to get those donations now? Probably the Lib Dems. Maybe some of it will go to Reform, or maybe back to the Tories. Who knows? But this is, Labour have just fumbled this so bad, and I think they deserve to be kind of called out, and this stuff should be documented, that these are big political mistakes that they've made here, and if anything, this one's one for the books, really, about political mismanagement, but anyways, or political malpractice, should I say. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.